Okay, let's go ahead and get started, Tracy, and then we will turn it over to Robert.
Okay, welcome everyone. We're happy to have you here to talk about internet safety tonight. I'm Tracy and I'm with the Family to Family Network. I'm the Utah County leader, and we're welcoming Utah County and Davis County are joining together to put this on. And we will turn the time over to Robert, who will be our presenter tonight.
Okay. Looks like thank you. I appreciate the introduction. Looks like we have a few people trying to come in. So hopefully they don't miss a whole lot. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And let's go to PowerPoint. Okay. All right. Can everybody see the PowerPoint screen?
Yep. We can see your screen. There you go. Awesome. You're good to go.
Okay. Okay, let's just, if it's okay, if it's all right with everybody, I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna make sure the PowerPoint is big enough for everyone to see, but the notes help act as cues. So I hope that's all right with everyone. If you have any objections, let me know. I want to make sure we accommodate everybody. But at the same time, I don't want to get lost in speech. It just happens. So, okay. On a personal note, welcome everyone. I'm glad you can make it. Tonight's lesson or presentation is on driving safely on the information superhighway, a guide to internet safety. Before I, okay, well, first of all, yeah, thanks for coming. I'm glad you can make it. Before I begin, let me go to next slide. There we go. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Robert Jones. I work for Advocates as Leaders, Self-Advocacy Speakers Network. And our mission is to help educate self-advocates in life and what's going around them. And we also try to educate family members, siblings, professionals, community members on issues that affect our lives. I have been with Advocates as Leaders for a few years now, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy helping to be that educator. I also like to share my skills as much as I can. And I hope that those will pay off tonight. I also am a graduate, I'm a graduate in Information Systems Technology from Utah Valley University. I just received an Associate of Applied Science degree earlier this year. And I also have a few certifications, and I'm a 2-time gold medalist in IT-related competitions for Skills USA. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay. So we'll start by talking a little bit about the internet or the information superhighway. Now there's a few things it's known as. You've got the internet, the World Wide Web, the communications network, the computer world, cyberspace. And you've probably heard it said that if you're lost in cyberspace, probably because you're dozing off. That happens. Or the data highway. Whatever you choose to call it, it's all pretty much the same thing. As far as the internet is concerned, it is interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting because it offers a lot of different things. It offers many options. It's quick. It's quick depending on your network speed. It's available everywhere. It's easily accessible, meaning that it's available everywhere. It's entertaining. It can be entertaining. It can connect you to others. It can be scary. We'll talk a little bit about how it can be scary. It can be educational. It can be private. It is fast. Well, let's hope it's fast. Unless you're still using dial-up, then good luck. It can be harmful, confusing, and it can also be fun. So there are a lot of attributes that come with the internet and the information superhighway, both good and bad. And we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at some of those things in this lesson. Let's face it, the internet or the World Wide Web, communication network, computer world, whatever you choose to call it, it has changed the way we communicate. It's changed the way we operate. It's changed the way we do everything. So we'll take a look at some of those things. Just real quick, is this view okay with everybody? No objections? Okay. Just send a message in the chat box, or just say something if you have any trouble. You can unmute yourself and stop me if you need to. The history of the internet. The internet has quite an extensive history. It was first introduced by the military in the 1950s, and it had a step-by-step process in between times, or in between the years of 1950s up until present time. It has evolved over time, is what I'm trying to say. But even before the 1950s, it actually existed a little before that. The military used a machine called the ENIAC, or the Electronic Numerator Integrator and Computer. It was used to crack codes and it was used to crack codes so the military could ensure safety, ensure security. In fact, an interesting fact about it is it was said that all the lights would dim as soon as it was switched on because it generated so much power. So we'll talk a little bit about this. It can seem hard to believe the internet has been around that long, but it was, like I said, designed for protecting the country. In the 1960s, it was used for sharing resources between government researchers. In the 70s, the internet began changing their usage from telephone lines to radio waves, satellite communications. In the 80s and 90s, universities and research institutions began using the internet. The internet was turned over from 1995 to the present time. It was turned over from the US military to commercial industry. When the military was using it, it was actually known as the ARPANET. And the ARPANET, that was an acronym for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. And then as it became more and more useful, it became more available to the public. And it evolved and became as we now know it today. Some interesting facts. It's kind of a timeline of how things have changed over the years. In 1989, the World Wide Web was introduced by Tim Berners-Lee and launched in 1991. In 94, Netscape Communications was born. Microsoft created a web browser for Windows 95. In 1994, Yahoo is created. I have kind of an inside joke where I think of Yahoo as designed by Yahoos, but don't pay that any mind. Let's just move that over. Sorry. Okay, if that'll work with me, maybe not. Okay, let's just do this. Sorry, guys. All right. This is just in case. All right. So, can everybody still see that? Hopefully, we can. Let's actually let's do this. We'll make sure it's easier. Anyway, so like I said, in '94, Yahoo was created. In 1995, Match.com was launched. The first match site for dating. In 1998, the Google search engine was introduced. Um, the Google search engine, I believe, introduced America Online. American Online originally had a search engine of their own, but it wasn't as advanced as what Google came out with. Google came out with a search engine that would make it easy for you to just access web pages uh, in a very quick rate, at a very quick speed. And that made things much more efficient since AOL was more involved with dial-up, and the first version or the first generation internet. In 2004, Facebook went online. It was introduced roughly around that time, then it came online, and over time it evolved and became it just exploded. It just exploded, and more and more people used it up until 2010 when it reached 4 million users. YouTube.com was launched in 2005. It started small and then exploded into something big. Nice thing about YouTube is that you can share information in live video mode, whereas in early days you couldn't do that, because we didn't have the advanced technology that we have today, and then you didn't have the large amounts of bandwidth or data to facilitate that. In 2015, Instagram, the photo sharing site, reached 400 million users. Instagram has been a very useful tool to allow people to share photographs and memories, if you will. It just makes it very, very convenient to share photos. In 2016, Google unveiled the Google Assistant, the voice-activated personal assistant. The program, Amazon's Alexa, uses a branch off of Google Assistants and uses the same artificial intelligence technology, where it can recognize voice and Cortana and Siri are very similar. They use the same technology, only Siri seems to be a little more amusing. Depends on what you like to ask her. If you tell her to jump off a cliff, she will probably do it, or she'll tell you you're not being very nice. So be careful what you say to Siri. Next, we'll talk. Okay, so next we have how many people are using the internet today? That's probably a question that comes to everybody's mind, and has at some point. Almost 4.57 billion people were active internet users as of July of this year. That's a lot of people, making up 59% of the global population. China, India, and the United States rank ahead in other countries. China and India, more than likely, are larger users because they have a larger industry, or they're a larger tech industry, especially in Seoul, Korea. Some of those areas have a larger tech. They have larger tech companies, and so they can certainly provide a lot more usage. A lot of what we do in America today is kind of borrowed. We have kind of a co-op system with some of these people, and we borrow a lot of information from them, and we pay them to use their stuff. So that would make sense as to why they rank higher. So the value of the internet. The internet has a great amount of value. It has It is very useful in so many areas. We named off a couple of them earlier in these slides. You can use electronic email, electronic mail, or email. Email was probably first introduced in about 94, 95, when America Online came out with their email. But they were still using, dial-up was still used back in those days. In fact, for those of you who might remember dial-up, you had to make sure the telephone line was free. Otherwise, yeah, you either had no internet or you just tied up the phone line. You know, someone would pick up the phone, you hear that that screeching sound that I'm sure hurt a lot of people's ears. But today, you don't have to worry about that. It's so nice. You just have wireless signals that do away with that, and plus you're a lot faster. Research. You can do research on the internet. You can download files a lot faster than what you used to be able to. Whereas, I mean, when in old days, you only had maybe about 256 kilobits per second, which is very, very small. Nowadays, you can download in megabits per second. Depending on where you're at, you can download in gigabits as well, but that would be very expensive. You can have discussion groups or chat rooms. You can have interactive games, education and self-improvement, friendship and dating, electronic newspapers and magazines, which is very, very convenient because you can go online and you can Google search 1820, newspaper from 1820. Bam, it's going to come up in lickety-split in just a second. Whereas in days of old, you had to search through books or archives. You had to go through the manual labor of searching for all that information. Today, you don't have to do that. It's been said when I went to school, when I took some of my classes, I was told technology makes us lazy. It kind of does, but for a good reason, right? You have job hunting. Job hunting is a very, very handy thing. The internet makes it very, very easy to find a job. If you go to Indeed.com and type in what you're looking for, you're immediately presented with a long list of job possibilities and opportunities. Shopping. Shopping is a big one. The internet, it makes shopping super easy. You don't even have to leave your home. You can sit and eat your bonbons at home and just enjoy yourself while you do your shopping, and then you get it delivered to you. That's so nice. I mean, now, I'm not suggesting all of you eat bonbons, but it's just a thought, right? So the internet is very valuable, very helpful. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. Now, these are actually used interchangeably, the web, the internet. In a lot of ways, they're really the same thing, but they are also different. The internet is an it is an interconnected network of computers, hence the name internet. That's where the name internet comes from. Interconnected network. It is where computers are linked together. And I'm sure all of us have seen that. If you've gone to a classroom, you've seen an internet network of computers. You have a host computer, and then you have a host computer, which is a server computer, and then you have a bunch of nodes. A node is also, or I'm sorry, a host computer. You have a host, and then the node is the server computer. Just a tech term. Hopefully that doesn't sound too confusing. So basically you have computer 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are host computers, and they receive a signal from a network computer or the server. And so that all of that makeup is what forms the internet. The internet it helps us communicate and exchange data with one another, and that's really how we get all that we have. You have a multiplicity of computers, or many computers, that are connected. You know, it's like your network on Facebook. You have your network of friends, right? And then all that network links to one specific area, kind of like what we're doing here. I'm the host, and then everybody in my audience is the host in a way. So in a way, what we're doing right now is like the internet. It was used to view web pages. It is used to view web pages that you're interested in. So it's a network, okay? Whereas the World Wide Web is simply like, think of it as a box of information. For every piece of information you put in it, you can retrieve that information. Okay, it's like putting a bunch of pages in a box. Okay, so that's really what the web is it's a storage database of pages. So when you go and you type in your URL or your website, then the page is taken out of that box and presented to you. Hopefully that makes sense. So the difference, that's really the difference, is the World Wide Web is a collection of pages that can be retrieved, whereas the network, the internet, is the place that holds the pages. Okay, so you don't have the web pages without the internet. So hopefully that makes some sense. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them in the chat box. We'll be happy to answer them, after the presentation. So that's the difference between the internet and the web. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about privacy. So in the next few slides, we're going to talk about these things. We're going to talk about privacy, identity theft, viruses and malware, scams and phishing, creating strong passwords, Wi-Fi. No, I'm not talking about giving your girlfriend a ring and saying, "Please be my Wi-Fi." No, I'm not talking about that. Of course, you know that. But social media sites, virtual dating, and cyberbullies. Now, some of these things are going to be a little dismal to talk about because they are what they are, but we'll try to make it light. I hope you don't mind a little humor here and there, because it'd be pretty bland if we didn't incorporate some humor. So you gotta laugh if you're gonna learn. So, okay. So to start off, we're gonna talk a little about keeping your personal information private. First of all, you never give out your social security number, your passwords, account numbers, address, or telephone number. If you do give some of these things away, you have to be careful how you share them. It is usually best practice, if you're going to share a social security number, only share it with people you have to share it with. For instance, the IRS, Uncle Sam, or your medical records, anything that's really, really important. Applications, but don't share them with just random people that you don't know, or just don't share them unless you have to. That's the best rule of thumb. Passwords, if you're going to use passwords, and if you have to share a password, it is usually best only to share a password with somebody you know. If you do not know a person who's asking for a password, it's best to just decline. Account numbers, same thing. Share only account numbers with people you know and people you trust, people who are trustworthy. Your address or telephone number, same thing. If you're going to share your address, if you have to share your address and telephone number, be careful with that. Be sure you know who you are giving information to and how they're going to use that information. Again, it's best to know the person who you share information with. It is all too easy to share information with people we don't know, and it's easy to fall into that pitfall, into the trap of sharing something with someone we don't know. Pay close attention to your bills, especially close attention, because you don't want somebody spending your money and giving you the bill. Someone can take you to the cleaners and say, "Hey, thanks for the free shopping." you know, you get the bill. You have to be careful. That's why giving out this information is something you have to be super careful with. This is where it's okay to be a stickler. Find someone to help you if you have questions. That's applicable to anybody. If you're not sure, just ask. There's bound to be someone to help you. Viruses and malware. I'm sure everyone will agree with me when I say I hate these because they are very difficult to remove. And they cause lots of problems. Malware and viruses make our electronics very sick, our devices very sick. You can think, I mean, just as a virus makes our bodies sick, computers are the same way. They cause them to malfunction and do things they wouldn't normally do. Before downloading anything, and again, you want to ask questions, you have to be careful when you're downloading information because some of that information can contain some very hazardous material. It can contain hidden information that you don't want. Never, you know, for example, don't click on any ads that say they are free. For instance, I'm sure all of us at some point have on the internet seen those little flashy ads that say click here for this promotion or whatever, or just the click me. Best just not touch them, overlook them and ignore them, because by clicking on that you could be directly linked to a malware site or a repository, as we would call them, where you get a bundle of information. You can say a bundle of worms, Trojans, you name it. You don't want them. To avoid any problems with your computer, you want to use an antivirus and malware software to protect your computer. Don't help the bad folks control your computer, tablet, or phone. Be very, very careful. When you want to be very, very careful. That's to say the least. Yeah, later I'm going to show you. I don't know if we still have them in the slides, but I will mention some websites that I would strongly recommend that are very, very good as anti-malware and antivirus. One of those things is Malwarebytes. It's a very good program, and it is aggressive. It will help protect your system by monitoring it very, very meticulously. Avast is one of those. Avast is one of those softwares that allows you to run what's called a boot scan. That means that before your computer starts up, it will scan for any problems and immediately quarantine them before they have a chance to have any effect on your computer. So we want to be super careful when it comes to what we run into. Just real quick, the difference between the viruses and malware is, well, they're really pretty much the same thing, but they're different in that malware usually causes your computer to malfunction. It's just software that is just maliciously and malevolently intended to just screw up your computer. A virus, it usually contains malicious coding that tells your computer to do something it normally wouldn't. And just it messes with the programming and just screws up the whole thing. So really there's no difference, except viruses are a little more vicious. Scams and phishing can lead to such things as viruses and malware. First of all, when it comes to these things, you don't know the person. You're not going to, probably more than likely, you are not going to know the person who's going to scam you or phish from you. The difference between scams and phishing is that a scam, somebody will call you pretending to be someone they're not. If they will try to trick you A classic example is they will try to trick you into giving them information. Like they'll try to trick you into giving them your social security number, your bank account information. They will try to trick you into giving them your credit card information. And then fishermen will typically tend to do the same thing. They'll try to get information out of you, pretending to be someone they're not. And they'll use a very convincing story. And, like for instance, say, I'm from T-Mobile and I noticed you have a problem with your account, and then they'll try to get your credit card information. They'll try to have you convinced. An example of a scam is if somebody calls you up claiming to be from the IRS, saying you owe us such and such amount, you are overdue in your taxes. They'll try to convince you that you're at fault for something. But the nice thing is that the IRS, for starters, the IRS will never call you. They'll only send you letters. If they really want your attention, they'll send you a letter. They won't call you, they won't email you. That's just an example of a scam. And they'll ask for unusual payment methods and wire transfers. Like I said, they'll ask for your personal information. They'll try to gain your trust by claiming to be someone that they're not. And they'll send you fake websites, fake phone numbers, and they appeal to your emotions. They try to get you to feel comfortable with them. And the offer is too good to be true. Like for instance, somebody calls you up and say, oh, we got it. You want a free Camaro. Yeah, right. Yeah. Be careful. If it's too good to be true, chances are it is. Trust your gut. And then down here's a few examples: banking scams, ticket scams, charity scams, tax ID theft, and lottery and sweepstakes. Just be careful. Don't trust everything you see. That's really what it boils down to. And let's go down. Okay. So it's important that you protect yourself against scams. Never give out personal information. Never click on a link that's been provided to you that you're not sure about. Be especially suspicious of links. Look for website addresses that are similar. Well, first of all, look for the difference. That's what I'm going to say. Look for the difference, because you don't want to go to a website accidentally and have a problem, and then have a bunch of malware instantly triggered so it comes onto your system. Look for poor spelling and unusual grammar. These are a couple examples. Like if Google is messed up, this is not going to take you, if it's misspelled, it is not going to take you to the correct domain. That's the name of where the website is. If it's Twitter instead of Twitter, it's going to be a problem. If it's gargle, it's not going to be correct. And it's not going to take you to a good site. So as I mentioned before, there's some free sites. Avast is a good one. I mentioned that with the boot scan. Sophos is a good one. Sophos has been around for a couple of years now, and they have state-of-the-art software that is designed to monitor your system in such a way that if anything even looks remotely fishy, you're going to know about it. Malwarebytes, same thing, but its job is mainly to search for malware and make sure that it's not welcomed into your system. So these are a couple sites. If you need more information about what sites, you can also Google search what is the best software. Pay attention to star ratings and customer reviews. The better the customer review, the higher the star rating, the higher the chances that your software is going to be very good and useful for you. The importance of a strong password. It is very important to keep a strong password. It is best practice to have a alphanumeric password. That means that you have at least one capital letter in the password, and then at least one or two numbers, and then a character if you can, such as an exclamation point or an @ sign. A classic example is with password is capital P, the @ sign, $sign, $W, @ sign, R, and D. That's an alphanumeric password example. Those are harder to crack. It makes it more difficult for hackers because of the fact that they have password cracking machines that can break it in a hurry. Different passwords should be created for each account. If you have to use the same password because you can't remember a multiplicity of passwords, it is best to modify a password for a different account and then add another character to it so it's easier for you to remember. Set up timeout settings less than 20 minutes or an account lockout policy. That means if someone tries to guess your password more than 3 times, it will lock them out until the password, and they will be required to reset the password. Check to see if you can receive alerts to your device if it's currently being used. For example, Lockout Mobile Security with T-Mobile does that. It allows you to make your phone scream if you suspect that anything's going wrong, or it will remotely lock your phone. Most Android devices come with that capability. If you lose your phone, you can even make it scream and you can pinpoint its location. That's a nice security measure. So I strongly recommend that if you have an Android phone. Never share your passwords and passcodes with anyone. That is something we have to keep in mind. Don't share anything with anybody unless you absolutely know that person and you trust them. But it's usually best security not to do that. Hackers and identity thieves break into your computers and devices by guessing your password. Sometimes they don't even have to guess them. They can just crack them by using a coding device that scans the coding until it finds just the right characters that match the entry requirement. So it is important to keep a strong password. Create a strong password, as I mentioned before. Keep it alphanumeric. Consists of at least 10 characters. Make it at least 10 characters long. The longer the password, the better, because then it makes it harder to guess. You can, the word 4 can be replaced with the number 4. So yeah, you can use words in place of a number. Use numbers and symbols to keep it that, just to be short and speech. This is an example of a password. So save the number for later in the year. This is a mnemonic device. So if you're not familiar with a mnemonic device helps you remember. Those can be used for remembering a password. Make your password off of something that you know you're going to remember, but don't make it easy to guess. Next is we're looking at Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi is absolutely something you need to protect. If you have your own personal network at home, keep it safe, keep it secure, pay very close attention to the security. Ask your service provider about how you can protect your wireless and internet. A simple way to keep it protected is don't share your Wi-Fi with someone you don't trust. Do not share the password with someone you don't trust, especially if it's somebody you think is going to try and download malicious content or that's going to create all sorts of problems. There are lots and lots of ways that the Wi-Fi can be compromised due to the amount of time. I would love to tell you about them, but that'd be for a different lesson. If you're interested in learning more, shoot me an email at bones.rmj@gmail.com, or I'll give you my information later as we end this. And I can give you more information if you have questions. Be sure to be careful. Make sure your information is private. Always look for give me a second, sorry. Yeah, just look for little details and stay attentive to little details, and then look for little problems. If you see something that looks funny or is off, chances are it is. So it's important to keep track of your Wi-Fi and pay attention to what's going on. When you're surfing the internet, one way to know you're secure with your web pages, I mean, it's different from Wi-Fi, but one way to keep yourself secure is if you see a green lock, that means your connection is secure. If you see a yellow lock, it means use caution. If you see a lock with the line slashed through it, chances are it's not a secure site and you probably should avoid it. Or at least ask questions or do a little research, Google it, and find out what the reviews are regarding that site before you visit that site. Because that site could contain malware, viruses, adware, and other types of malicious software that can do harm to your computer. So it's important to keep track of that, at least pay attention, and just note what the security issues are. Social media. The social media we use today, obviously, is Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, FaceTime, Google Hangouts, chat rooms, LinkedIn. Most people use Facebook. A lot of people use Twitter. Snapchat, I would say, is moderately used. Instagram, same thing. FaceTime, Google Hangouts, chat rooms, they're all great for communicating when you need to meet with somebody, especially today, with the pandemic being the way it is. LinkedIn, very good source. LinkedIn is one of the most secure social media sites. I definitely recommend it. And over the last few years, Facebook has been used the most, but it does have its vulnerabilities. You have to be careful with Facebook because scams do exist. You can have somebody try to contact you pretending to be someone they're not. They can seem legitimate when they're not. Facebook has had a problem over the last couple of years where accounts have been hacked. And people run into trouble when they are contacted by someone who pretends to be a friend who's really not. We'll kind of talk a little bit about that in these next few slides. I'll illustrate my point when I talk about how to be careful with dating sites. So keys to social media safety are zip it, block it, flag it. I'm going to talk a little bit about those in these next few slides. And it's important to keep these in mind. It's important to utilize these steps in order to stay safe. Zip it, keep your personal stuff private. Block it if you have questions, if you're not sure. Flag it. Make sure that you make it known that there's a problem. Starting with the zip it. Again, don't share your address, your phone number, your birth date, full name, where you work, your vacation plans. Anytime you visit a site, the thing you want to make sure of is that you're very careful what information you share. I can't stress that enough. You have to get in the habit of making sure that you pay very close attention to who you share your information with, because you don't want it ending up in the wrong hands. This is how identities are stolen. People innocently and mistakenly share information, and it ends up getting into the wrong hands, and it causes a myriad of problems. And they end up, the worst case scenario is they lose their identity. So use privacy settings. The internet has those. Make sure that you use those for Facebook. Use them for any browsing you do through your browser. I mean, anytime you can use privacy settings, do it. Especially when you're browsing. Make sure if you're browsing, a good habit to have is don't tell your browser not to remember any history. The reason for that is because it helps protect your habits. It helps protect your what you do online. It keeps you safe. Keep your password secret. It's very, very important. Just like I said, don't share it with anybody. Block it. If you're not sure, block people, block anybody who you don't trust, especially if they send offensive messages. Don't open email messages if you don't know the person who sent it to you. Just delete it. You send it to the spam box or just delete it. Do not open it. It can be very dangerous because it could contain malicious code or something that could do harm to both you and your computer. Use a safe search option when you're using your search engine, such as Google, Safari, Bing. First, make sure that it's a secure site. Then you can know that you're safe searching. Flag it. If you're not sure, don't just block it, but flag it and say, hey, this is a problem. Tell someone you trust if you see something that makes you uncomfortable online. This is extremely important. If you do not trust something and you question what's going on, say something. You have to say something because that helps put an end to crime, cybercrime especially. Be safe and smart. If you want to meet someone online or in person, be very careful about it. Meet in a busy public place where you can be seen. Some things are best done where someone can see you, so they can be a witness if something goes wrong. Tell someone you trust where you're going to be and when you'll be back. If you feel uncomfortable or scared, just walk away. If you have to, close your computer, turn it off, and walk away. Anytime that happens, that's sometimes what you have to do. But in most cases, it's the best thing to do, if that makes any sense. Some of the top 10 dating sites are Bumble, Tinder, OkCupid, Hinge, Coffee Meets Bagel. That's an interesting name. Yeah, that'd be a soggy bagel. But at least they met. The League, Her, Clover, Plenty of Fish, Match, eHarmony. These tend to be some of the most secure sites, but they can still, they are sites where you can still run into a problem. Bad people can still take advantage of those sites. They can still try to trick you and make you think that they're someone they're not. Heck, they can even try to steal your identity if they can. All they have to do is ask the right questions. So it's absolutely important. But these are all very good sites and strongly encouraged. They've become very popular over the past few years, and they're just great. They're useful to have. Dating sites for people with disabilities are Whispers for You, been around since 2002. Dating for disabled is free. I would say dating for abled or enabled. Special Bridge, I mean, obviously I can't change that name because it is what it is. Special Bridge is a private family-owned and operated social community for people with disabilities. Disabled Passions is a social networking community that is 100% free, offers a variety of content related to people with disabilities. My special match is great. It's family owned and operated. It was created for people with special needs. So these are a few sites that are great for a person with a disability, because then they don't have to feel awkward. They don't have to worry about, like, what if they say something that hurts my feelings? They can feel one level with somebody that's in their same boat. And so it's a really, really good, these are all really good sites to use, and they're strongly recommended. Some tips for internet dating. You want to choose a trustworthy dating site. You make sure you can trust it. Use a screen name or nickname. It's probably good to keep, I would say it is good to use a nickname, because then you don't put yourself out there, you don't put yourself in a vulnerable situation. And you basically just don't put yourself in a bad situation. You are using an alias or a different name until you get to know that person. Set up an email for just dating. Great idea. Create a fake email account. That's what people do all the time. Something for just dating, because then all that information is sent to you from just dating, for just dating, all the information you would get. Until you know someone, don't give out personal information. Never give out any information to someone you don't know. Get to know them first, get to know them really, really well. And then slowly and gradually give that information to you can trust them. Don't send money, gifts, or offer to pay for transportation. Not a good idea if you're just getting to know someone, because you don't know what kind of person they are. It's best to get to know them in person, or just give it a couple weeks to a couple months to get to know that person, so you know that they're safe to deal with, or be around, I should say. Things to remember if you're going to meet up. Tell a trusted person you have a friend. Use caution when sending photos, extreme caution, because those photos can be modified, tweaked. A bully can even take those photos and do terrible things with them. So be very careful, especially a hacker or a cyber criminal. Be sure and be safe and smart. If you want to meet someone online in person, just keep your wits about you. Think very carefully before you do. Always meet in a busy public place, as I mentioned before. Make sure you have people around you so that if something happens, you can call for help and you don't become victim to somebody who is out to attack you. Tell someone you trust where you're going to be and when you'll be back. That way you have someone has your back. If something happens to you, they can know what's going on. They can come to your aid and they can assist you when needed. Leave if you feel comfortable and scared. Never put yourself in a situation that's going to make things hard for you. Never stay in an uncomfortable situation. Get out if you can, when you can. Cyberbullying, it comes in the way of text messages. Bullies can target you through a text message. They can use fancy wording, or they can even bark orders at you through a text message, making you feel uncomfortable. They can say awful things about you if they want to, and make you feel bad about yourself. Computers and tablets, they can do the same thing. Emails can be sent to you in an attacking manner. Social media, same thing. Websites, absolutely same thing. Very rare with websites, but not as common as it is with social media, text messages, and emails. Cell phones, yes. You can get a phone call from somebody pretending to be someone they're not, saying, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, blah, 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 blah. Do it now. They can make it very uncomfortable for you. If you run into a situation like that, hang up, walk away, and go tell someone. And that way you keep yourself secure. Rumors is another one, sent by email or posted on social networking sites. That hurts people. Rumors are not only downright wrong, but they hurt people, because information gets twisted and sent around that can ruin a person's reputation. Cyberbullying is not uncommon. It happens all the time. And it is something we have to absolutely be careful with, especially with our loved ones. Our loved ones who have disabilities need to be protected. You know, they need to know that someone's got their back. And so it's important to educate them on this. Embarrassing videos and pictures, websites, or fake profiles. No one wants embarrassing pictures circulating about them because it leads to problems with low self-esteem. Mainly low self-esteem, not to where feelings get hurt and people shut down. And videos do the same thing. Anytime an attack goes on about a human being, that's what happens. They close off, they hide away. Cyberbullying is a real problem with that, a real problem that way. And it is our job to protect those we love from cyberbullying. If it happens to you, do not respond. Don't forward messages. Don't even have anything to do with them. The best thing you can do is either delete them or save them into a document as evidence if something were to happen. And then worst case scenario, go to the police. They can let them handle it. Keep your evidence. Obviously block the person who is cyberbullying. If they continue to attack you, that's when you get the police involved. When you read the terms and conditions on social media sites and rights and responsibilities, get yourself familiar. If you have a person who needs assistance, a person with a disability, a child, or anyone you know, make sure they're aware of these things. Report cyberbullying to social media sites, and if you have to, report them to the police. That way they can be properly dealt with. When to call the police? If there's threats of violence, if there's child pornography or sexually explicit messages in videos, that's when you need to report to the police. It is absolutely important. These things cannot go ignored. If you receive a photo or a video of someone in a place where they would expect privacy, stalking or hate crimes, these have to go to the police because it's absolutely important to protect people. We have to protect people more than ever today because of how dangerous cybercrime is. It is getting worse every day. As an IT specialist, I've heard reports and I've seen things that are just jaw-dropping, enough to make you sick to your stomach. So these things have to be taken with extreme caution and very seriously. Some general safety reminders: never give out personal information. Please remember, don't give out personal information to someone that you don't know. Only give it to someone you trust, and give it only if you have to. Only when necessary. Use only secure websites. Look for the little lock in the address bar. Be sure you are using privacy safety settings on your computer. Create strong passwords so it makes it harder to steal. Use an alphanumeric password. Make it long, but also easy for you to remember, difficult for the bad guys to guess. Always report cyberbullying to the right people. Do not tolerate it. Don't be tolerant. Be on defense. Never be a fence sitter. With that information and with all that's been said so far, I appreciate your time. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, different abilities make us all unique. They make us all different, and different is good. There's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to now turn the time over for questions.
So Robert, we do have questions in the chat. Can you see the chat, or do you want me to read them for you?
Let me minimize, let's see.
Do you want to just close yours? Close your screen.
Okay, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and Let me, let's see.
Or stop sharing.
Okay, stop. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go.
So if you go up a few, you can probably just read those questions and answer them. Or how
Okay.
would you like to do it?
All right. Let's look at, all right. All right, so Emily Hall asked, is there an easy way to send emails encrypted securely for Gmail, for example? That's a good question. Yeah, there is. If you take an email, for example, if you write up the email, and then if you go through, you can go through Microsoft Word. There are also other programs, I haven't personally used them, where you can write your email, you can write a draft, and then you can encrypt it. And then you can include it in the email and then send it. That's perhaps the best way I know how to encrypt a message. Otherwise, if you're going to send an email and you want to send a message, what I would do is use use whatever word process you like. If you have a word processor that you have a preference for, write your draft, and then they should have an encryption option. If you encrypt it in that message and then send it as an attachment, and then tell your subject that you have the message that and it is encrypted, then they can open the document and then decrypt it. It's quite a bit of a process, but yes, it is doable. Probably worth researching so I can have a better answer for you. But that's a very good question. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Robert.
Then, okay, how can I help somebody with a disability keep your personal information private? For example, my brother has autism. When he asked what his address or phone number is, he would automatically say he would appreciate ideas how to provide him the support in protecting his personal information. I would explain to him that probably what I'd say is simply stated, just be careful who you give it to. First of all, if you're going to share information, make sure that they trust that person that they are thinking of sharing their information with. Most of us are inclined to just to openly share information because we're nice people. But there comes a time when you have to be a little more reserved. Don't be so nice that you want to share everything. You can't do that. It's obviously because it's important to be safe. So in conversation, that's what I do. I would say, let's say, for instance, if a person with an intellectual disability, if somebody comes to them and says, "Hey, I'd like your I like your social security number and your phone number. I need it for this document I'm going to send you." For them, I would say, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't feel even if all they can say is, "I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable," that's good enough. Just say, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." and then get some help. You know, ask for help so that somebody can assist them to help identify whether or not that's a good thing to do. Does that make sense? That's just an example. And so you want to help them understand how to convey their messages without sharing too much information. In a document, for example, I would do the same thing. Keep your information as hidden as possible. You know, tell people about yourself, or tell people about what they need to know without giving too much detail. Only provide details when you absolutely have to. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but to a person with a disability, that's what I would do. If someone asks for the address and phone number, I would explain. If I were a person with a disability, I'd say, I'd rather know who you are first before I give that information out. That way, you have that protection. You have that security. You know, you know that you can at least have some knowledge that what you shared is at a level of caution. You're being very, very careful. You know, as far as let's see, James Gordon said, "Be careful when the computer wants to automatically save your login and password on sites." What would that be part of? Would that be part of keeping them private? Yes, to some degree, yes. Being careful would be yes. If your computer asks to automatically save login and password on sites, I would advise against it. Say no. Anytime the computer asks, do you want to save this password? Do you want to save this login information? Say no. Because if you were to, for example, if you were to leave your computer unattended, and you had to step away, let's say you were at a library, you had to step away to go use the restroom, and your computer was left unattended, and you forgot to lock it, somebody can see that password. It's visible, and you definitely don't want that. By allowing the computer to remember the password, that basically allows a person to come in, take your computer, log into your account, and do whatever they want. So it's best to say no. I advise against it. So that would be a really good way to keep private. And like you said, if you can avoid, some browsers will ask, do you want to keep your history? No. Although it is very convenient to have your browser remember where you were, it's also a problem, because it allows people to track you. They can see what you're doing. You can't see them, but they can see you, especially if you have a webcam. They can track you. But if you delete your history, that disallows people from seeing the patterns that you have on your computer. It basically keeps you in stealth, so to speak. I hope that answers your question, James. And then Jesse, okay, yeah, I hope that answers your question too. And then, is there a way to lock a calendar event so your son with a disability doesn't delete my appointments on Google Calendar? That's a very good question. And to lock your calendar, perhaps the best way at this, is to put a screen lock on your phone. If you're using your phone, use a screen lock. If you're using your computer, use a screen lock. If you have to step away from your calendar, just use a screen lock. Yeah, there are ways in which it depends on what. If you're using Google Calendar, yeah, you can. There should be an option. I think there is an option on Google Calendar where it asks you if you want to lock it or encrypt it or give permissions. There is, I think, if you go to your settings under permissions and configure who can see it and who can access it, then that will allow or disallow access to the calendar. You should be able to lock it so it can't be deleted. And that's something I can research too and have a better question too, but I'm pretty sure you can lock your calendar events so they can't be deleted by mistake. Aren't there complaints that have software for children and with some of these problems? Safety features in a special account that they are provided which limits where they go and prevents certain information from being exchanged. Yes, there are companies that have software for children that prevents them from having some of these things. But probably the easiest way to prevent children from accessing problem sites is to block them. If it's a website, for example, let's say there's a website you just don't trust. Or there's, let's just say it's just a malicious site, or you suspect it's a malicious site. One thing you can do is you can actually block the site using what's called the hosts file. I mean, it's a little complex, but that's one way to do it. The host file basically determines what site is going to show and what's not. You can also use a trick called spoofing. So, for example, if you're worried about your child mistakenly going to a site that you don't like, you can take the IP address or the data, to be in layman's terms, you can take the data for that site and exchange it in that file to where if they go to that site, even by accident, it automatically directs them somewhere else. Like, for instance, if your child goes looking for ways to hack someone, then they can't go to that site. Instead, they're directed to Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.org. And that, of course, that's not what they wanted, but it won't take them there. It's called web spoofing, and it is doable. That's one way I know of. But yeah, there are softwares that basically prevents sites from even showing. But some of them, they cost money, and that's the unfortunate side of things. But yes, there are some of those sites. So I hope, James, that answered your question. If you have any further questions, I mean, I'd be happy if you want to send me an email or contact me. I'd be happy to assist, where I can have a better answer for you. Does anyone have any further questions?
I think it looks great. Thanks, Robert.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time. Thanks for allowing me to to teach you and to share knowledge. It really helps me, commit it to memory by teaching it to others, and I like helping people in any way I can. I hope that the information provided here will help keep your children safe, especially your child with a disability. It is absolutely important to pay attention to these, pay attention to the warning signs, pay attention to every caution, trust your gut. If something doesn't look right, chances are it isn't right. Just be cautious. That's really what this all boils down to. The internet can be a wonderful place. It can also be a very dangerous place. And so just be cautious.
Thanks. So we have Karen on as well. Karen, do you want to say anything to finish up tonight? Karen is from our Davis County Family to Family Network.
Thank you for presenting.
You're welcome, Karen.
Important topic.
It is. It's a very important topic, and I mean, unfortunately, there's so many things that can be said, and there's just a lot of information that's very, very critical for people to know. But in the interest of time, I wish I could go into for a lot more. Lots more detail. But that's why I'm saying if you have any questions, you'd like to learn more, I'm more than happy to share what I know. Some better ideas, some more ideas on how you can secure your environment for your child. Because it more than ever today, it is absolutely critical to protect ourselves, not just ourselves, but our children, because of the dangers that exist on the internet. Children today are being attacked left and right. Their weaknesses are being used against them. And we have to make it our mission to protect them. And information security is it's a must. So, but hopefully that's helpful.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Appreciate your time. And you're welcome to all of you guys. You're very welcome. Thank you for taking your time to hear me out.
Have a great night, Robert.
Yeah, you too. You guys have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Robert.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Robert. Good job. Thanks.
Thank you. You
See you
bet.
later.
See ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.